I'm taking a little break from the work that I'm doing at the moment to give you a little tour of my studio and show you my workspace. This is basically, where I work, and you can see that things are very close. I'm going to take you first into my front room where I do the silk paper backing and cut large pieces of fabric. This is the main cutting table here, and you can see it's got a large cutting surface on it. There's a roll of fabric, and I have a steel straight edge here that I use to cut against. This is an area that I also use to sort of stage things and wrap things up before they go out of the house. Over to my immediate right here is a large standing press. And this is a place where I finish off, large clamshell boxes and do laminations and store books when they need to rest overnight. As we walk into the studio, we're going to pass by this little stack of tables here, which are used on occasion for stacking up work while I'm working on it. There's not a lot of counter space in the bindery to put things on, and the tables are not very large, so I use these little tables to stack and store things. And then they get out of the way when I don't need them. When we get first to the end of my table, you'll see that it's set up now for gluing out. And the end of my table here is where I have glue. And there's water bottles, there's a mister, things that you need for longer periods of doing things. Above this, there's another shelf where I store, fabrics like that. So we'll go around to the work area here now. And you see that this is just a very small space. It's barely, 3.5 feet between my printing presses on this side and the work table where I do most of the work, right here. Now over here on this press I have a tray, and you'll see that I have the saws here that I use for sawing in things on perfect bindings, and also for cutting pieces of gauge material if I need to cut a piece of wood one. In this tray there's a brush that I use for clearing off the table, because you should never use your hand. There are pairs of scissors, there are folders, probably too many because I don't use them that much anymore, although you do on occasion need hard bone folders. I have switched completely now to this Teflon folder. The Teflon folder works very well. It doesn't mar fabric, and it has the sharp points for getting into corners and a chisel end for pushing fabric in the bottoms of boxes, and a very good clean surface that stays clean very easily. Now in this tray there's also this little container here, and there are some important tools in here. This one is a dissecting pin. You see what this looks like. And I use that to release air from fabric when I'm gluing and setting insets. It also picks out little bits of dirt and glue if you happen to have that happen to you. There's a pair of cross-lock tweezers for reaching things and grabbing things to pull out of boxes or out of tight spaces in the spines of books and things like that. There are various colored pencils, and those are used for marking on dark fabric. Using a graphite pencil on black fabric isn't always visible, so it's good to have a pale yellow, or a green or something like that, so that you can actually see what you're doing. To the immediate right of this, there's a little box of erasers. These are Staedtler white erasers that I use for cleaning up paper and keeping things as I go along. There's little corks, there's inks here for my fountain pens, and above this on the shelf are my tools. There's a toolbox, and in this toolbox I have my Teflon folders, a little folder that I use to clean out the rollers, This is, of course, a tape measure. This is another tape measure. This one is very handy because you can always measure boards and use it very quickly to figure out what you're having to cut out of large pieces of material. You have triangles here, a pair of dividers, extra knives. There are cases for blades and for needles, and marking pencils. There's also a macro spatula and a micro spatula. And then down here on the other press, I keep all of my rulers. So all I have to do is just turn around and I can grab a straight edge. Or if I need to have an extra cutting board, I have pieces there. Underneath that, there are the rollers that I use for laminating and laying fabric down onto boards. And it's always, very handy because all I have to do is turn around and here's the work table. And on the work table, I have my, cutting surface. This is almost always here. The scissors are here because I'm using them right now. And this is a box project that I'm working on at the moment. This is also a useful thing to have on your work table. It's just a little trash bucket, but it keeps your work area clean. When you're trimming things off, you can just throw the scraps in there instead of dropping them on the floor or having to brush them away while you're working. Now, as we go down from the work table here, you'll see that this is another little table immediately beside it. And on this, there are weights. These are steel blocks that have been covered with binding material. There's the nipping press. And over here, there's a pencil sharpener, masking tape for grabbing things, and also for setting my my square on the board shear, which is right here. This device here is a piece of steel that I use when I'm making boxes. It gets clamped onto the edge of the table. And right behind this on the mantle, I'm going to raise this up now, and you'll see that there are clips, spring clips like this, and then above that is where I keep my C-clamps. They're all within an arm's reach of the work table itself. And then over here is the board shear. And you'll see here there's an extra light for when I have to work at nighttime and I can't see where the cuts are going and there's no sunlight coming in the windows. And then down here there's extra boards, there's pieces of wood for making gauges, and this leads into the other boards that I have down here, which are used as pressing boards, and pressing boards for various projects when I need them. These are for inside, boxes, when I have to do clamshell boxes and do the final assembly on those. There's also a piece of marble here for paring leather. And then on this side here, there are bricks for extra weight, when I need to store things overnight under passive pressure. So this sort of gives you a pretty good idea of what my workspace is like and how efficient it is, because I work standing, in this little space here, and all I have to do is work at the table here, and if I need something, it's right there or here. And of course the glue is right, to my side there. And then my main stack of boards is over here with the silk boards, or the ones I use for paper backing, right there. These tool cabinets have various things in them, sewing supplies and ribbons and things that I don't use that often. So I guess that's really, about it. So I hope you've enjoyed visiting the studio. We'll be seeing you, with other videos as time goes on. Bye-bye.